I'm Mike Quackenbush. This is Till We Make It. And since I broke into professional wrestling back in 1994, I have heard all kinds of theories, philosophies, and approaches to the craft. And there is one I have heard a lot recently that I think has got to go. It's this: the idea that you must protect your brand. I happen to think there is no marketing buzzword more overused in this day and age than branding. And this has permeated throughout all of professional wrestling. It's your social media branding. It's your branding in merchandise. It's how you represent your personal brand when you're out networking, etc., etc. We've all heard this. We've heard various different takes on it. Some of them are very well informed. Some of them are even well intentioned. And some of them are really rather lousy. As I'm on my way to the wood chipper with this one, though, I would like to say this. There are a lot of coaches at the very bottom of the industry, at the very top of the industry, and everywhere in between who I have heard recently repeat this idea to their trainees. Protect your brand. And I think I understand why that's being said. But the reason this has got to go is because it is too easily misunderstood by developing talents. When you have veteran-level experience, hearing a phrase like protect your brand means something entirely different to you than it does to developing talent. And saying that to trainees and students who are just beginning to form their professional persona, I think is very dangerous. I have good reason to believe that the phrase protect your brand is being misinterpreted by developing talents because I have seen this happen firsthand this year in more than one instance. And here are the examples that I want to share with you to try and draw it into clarity a little bit about how this is being misapplied. A bigger guy is told, hey, protect your brand. You can't be selling those punches and kicks for someone that is smaller than you. And that, as an overriding idea, we need to approach very, very carefully. Because it could be interpreted that what is being said by the coach or mentor in that example is that big guys don't sell for smaller guys. And that is not correct. That's not true. That's not a real approach to making what we make. The alternative that I think we all need to begin to employ to protect your brand is this: use common sense. Do we need the Big Show to sell for Rey Mysterio as if he is being punched by Batista? No. No, we don't. There is a correct way to sell the offense of someone smaller when your character is meant to be a giant. That calls on you to use your common sense. But the blanket concept of protect your brand, the ways in which I have seen it misinterpreted very, very recently, would lead the bigger performer to believe that what they are being instructed to do is not sell for the other person. A more mature or tenured performer will have the body of work, experience, and context to understand what is meant by the phrase protect your brand. But when coaches and mentors are sharing that with developing talent that don't have that body of work or they don't have that experience to call on, I think it lends to a misinterpretation that is very damaging to our art form. In my opinion, the job of a professional wrestler is to make the other person look awesome. And this is nearly entirely contradicted by the concept of protect your brand. That is a very selfish approach to a job which is inherently selfless. We make each other look awesome. I can only look as good as my opponent makes me look. And my opponent can only look as good as I choose to make them. If we end up nurturing a generation of professional wrestlers whose philosophy is informed by the dangerous tenet of protect your brand, that is to say, their approach to the work itself is to put themselves first and to put their opponent second, we're going to end up with a universe of professional wrestling that is meh at best. I happen to think the responsibility of being a professional wrestler comes with inherent selflessness, not just of your time, not just of your creative energy, but of your physical well-being, what you do with your body, and you bring it to the stage in service to your opponent, knowing and trusting at every turn that they're going to do exactly the same for you. And that relationship between the performers is essential to what we make in the ring. that idea is also corroded by the concept of protect your brand. I hope that together we can begin to replace the idea of protect your brand with use common sense. Look at the scenario in front of you and make good choices based on what the dynamic between the characters might be. Protecting your brand needs to be thrown out the window in favor of something that is more practical, given that the nature of our performance art is that we can only look as good as our opponent makes us. And just so I can head off the heat at the pass, I do not think that protect your brand is inherently wrong or bad. Where it goes wrong is the way in which it is interpreted by the new talent coming up who are not yet fully formed as performers. They're still in their nascent stage, right? They're freshly hatched out of their eggs, shaking those eggshells off of themselves and hearing protect your brand without enough experience or context to understand the intent of the message. I think the well-intentioned meaning behind protect your brand is not reaching the people that need it most in the way it was intended. And that's why it's time for us to do away with it and replace it with something else. And maybe a place to start is this: use common sense. I often say, no one makes wrestling in a vacuum. That means that no one makes professional wrestling alone. You can't do it. You need an opponent. You need a referee. You need a timekeeper. You need somebody working the music and somebody working the lights. You need the ring crew. You need the people ripping the tickets, the people selling the concessions, the ushers that put people in their chairs. You need a giant team of people to make professional wrestling. And all of them are there in service to the craft, not to their personal brands. And if you walk to the ring each and every time, thinking to yourself, your only responsibility, your only priority is to protect my brand, then I happen to think you're in the wrong line of work. Thanks for letting me get that off my chest. And if you're picking up what I'm putting down and need a little bit more of it pumped into your system, I know you will enjoy 7 Keys to Becoming a Better Performer, a book for fellow pro wrestlers. It's available on Amazon.com. They'll deliver it to your Kindle or to your door. And if you'd rather have me read it to you, well, that's just fine. There's an audiobook over on Audible.com. And on your way out the door, will you be so kind as to share Till We Make It with somebody else you know in the profession? I don't doubt there's something somewhere on this channel that will help make them a better pro, no matter where they're at in their journey as professional wrestlers.